Fish you should never eat. Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this video we will talk about fish you should never eat. However, before we start our countdown, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and also press the bell icon. So, let's get started. 1. Atlantic cod. Historically, Atlantic cod is a species proven to be vitally important to feeding the New World civilization and early colonization of the Caribbean Sea. But the heavy fishing over the last 1,000 years has taken its toll. In the late 1990s, catastrophe struck. The fishery collapsed. Although the female cod releases more than 100 million eggs, only a few are able to survive to adulthood. According to Oceana, scientists agree that North Atlantic food webs have fundamentally changed as a result of the Atlantic cod collapse, and the species is currently considered vulnerable to extinction. If you're a fan of cod liver oil, make sure it's not sourced from Atlantic cod. Instead, opt for Alaskan cod caught with a long line, pot, or jig. 2. Atlantic flatfish. Due to historical overfishing and high contamination levels, these flatfish species have secured their slot on the list of fish you should never eat. In 2014, Oceana, the largest ocean conservation group in the world, conducted an investigation using data from the National Marine Fisheries Service. It identified the 9 worst fisheries in the U.S. based on wasted bycatch. The researchers found that commercial fishermen in the U.S. throw about 2 billion pounds of bycatch overboard each year. That's equivalent to about 500 million seafood meals. The California gillnet fishery that targets halibut was identified as one of the worst. According to the report, if you've eaten U.S. halibut, there's a good chance it came from this damaging fishery. 3. Caviar. Beluga sturgeon are ancient fish that are highly sought for their fish eggs, aka caviar. In fact, this fish grows to be very large, can live to be 100 years old, and can carry several hundred pounds of caviar, which can be worth up to $3,500 a pound. According to Oceana, the fish that produces this prized caviar is in major trouble. It is completely gone from several seas/rivers in which it used to live, and scientists fear that it is critically endangered. In other words, it is very highly vulnerable to extinction across its entire range. Without further protection and enforcement of existing efforts, we may forever lose one of the biggest, most interesting fishes in the world. If you absolutely cannot give up caviar, Seafood Watch recommends caviar from blue sturgeon raised in recirculating aquaculture systems in the U.S. as a more sustainable alternative. 4. Chilean sea bass. Actually named a Patagonian tooth fish, seafood distributors started marketing this deep-sea predator fish as Chilean sea bass because it sounded less intimidating. It worked. Now common on menus around the U.S., Chilean sea bass overfishing has left this species in serious trouble. Aside from overfishing, its high mercury levels are also problematic. Furthermore, harvesting the fish from Chile is also plagued by poor management and bycatch problems. 5. Eel. Monterey Bay Aquarium's Seafood Watch places eel on the avoid list on its sushi guide because it's slow to mature and has been overfished in many parts of the world, bringing some populations to collapse. This is leaving even Asian countries looking to American eels, which are threatened among U.S. populations, too. That's a problem because eels are incredibly important when it comes to protecting our water supplies. In the Delaware River, for instance, eels are an integral part of spreading mussel populations that serve as natural water filters. Aside from the issues with overfishing, eels tend to readily absorb and store harmful chemicals and contaminants, such as polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, and flame retardants. In certain states like New Jersey, river eels are so contaminated even adults are advised to eat no more than 1 eel a year. 6. Farmed salmon. Americans consume a lot of salmon. Unfortunately, the majority is the unhealthiest kind. In fact, most salmon marketed as Atlantic salmon is farmed, meaning that fish are raised in conditions often ridden with pesticides, feces, bacteria, and parasites. What's more, studies show that farmed salmon is more likely to contain harmful contaminants like PCBs, which are pollutants linked to insulin resistance, obesity, cancer, and stroke. They're also often treated with antibiotics and tend to be higher in inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. For a better alternative, skip the Atlantic salmon and opt for wild-caught Alaskan salmon instead. 7. Orange ruffy. One of the longest living marine fish species, orange ruffy can live to be 150 years old. Generally known as slimehead within the scientific community, seafood marketers had other ideas for this fish and gave the species a more appetizing name. The end result was a severely overfished species. Since orange ruffy don't reach sexual maturity until at least 20 years old, they are very slow to recovery. According to Oceana, the extremely long lifespan and the late age at maturity imply that a decimated population may take a half-century or longer before it can recover. Beyond that, the orange ruffy is also known to have higher mercury levels, which can be dangerous if consumed in large amounts. 8. Shark. Sharks are commonly found on fish you should never eat lists for several reasons. As bosses of the sea, they are very high on the food chain. That translates to higher mercury levels you should avoid in both foods and supplements. Apart from that, most shark species, which are slow to mature and don't have a lot of offspring, are severely depleted. This is partially due to a high demand for shark fins in Asian cuisine, as well as the fact that sharks are often caught accidentally by the thousands and discarded as waste by tuna and swordfish longline fishers. 9. Atlantic bluefin tuna. Although Atlantic bluefin tuna is a highly sought-after sushi ingredient, it's best to say no thanks to this popular fish. Often referred to as hanmeguro on sushi menus, this simply means bluefin tuna, which should be avoided at all costs. A better sushi choice is katsuo/skipjack tuna caught through Pacific troll or pole and line methods only. Atlantic bluefin tuna ends on the fish you should never eat for a few reasons. First, it's been overfished to the point of near extinction. However, due to its high demand for sushi, fisheries managers are still allowing commercial fishing to target it. Sadly, bluefin tuna numbers are at just 2.6% of historic population levels. Aside from the obvious population collapse and extinction threat, this is also a large predatory fish that harbors higher levels of mercury. 10. Swordfish. Mercury is the main concern when it comes to avoiding swordfish. This large, predatory fish contains elevated levels. In fact, the mercury in this fish is so high that the Environmental Defense Fund recommends women and children avoid it altogether. For men, the recommendation is to eat no more than 1 serving a month. 11. King mackerel. Mackerel is certainly packed with healthy omega-3s, but when it comes to certain types of mackerel, you could get more than you bargained for. That's certainly the case with king mackerel, as the Food and Drug Administration warns women and children to outright avoid it. You may want to avoid Spanish mackerel, too, which has also been shown to harbor elevated mercury levels. Luckily, Atlantic mackerel is high in omega-3s, low in mercury, and rated a top choice in terms of health and sustainability. 12. Grouper. Grouper is on a list when it comes to fish you should never eat due to its moderately high mercury levels. This species is also highly vulnerable to overfishing. Grouper is also a common target of seafood fraud. In 2015, investigations found that more than a third of 19 restaurants in Atlanta sold pangasius, also known as Vietnamese catfish, as grouper. Testing also found that grouper for sale is actually often king mackerel or whitefin weakfish, a cheaper alternative. 13. Sturgeon. Although beluga sturgeon are especially targeted for their eggs, other sturgeon are at risk as well. Some even appear on restaurant menus. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, sturgeon are more critically endangered than any other group of species. So, this was our today's video. I hope you all liked this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe my channel. And also share it with your friends and family. We will be back soon with a new video. Till then, keep supporting and take care.